Evil Dead the game melee weapon tier list for the Castle Kandar update. Let's go over it. Before we get started, I should mention that I did a little bit of testing with some of these. I've seen some reports from various people where the 3-speed weapons, the speed of the light attacks appear to have been buffed. And that also goes for the hunting knife, which is the lone 5-speed weapon in the game. So all the 3-speed weapons and all the 5-speed weapons, which is just the one weapon, have all been buffed to where their light attack swing speed is much faster, which is a good thing because now it makes 3-speed weapons actually viable. And I think the way that this game typically should work is that any weapon is viable. It's just a matter of which one you find that has the greatest rarity. So like, it kind of stinks when the spear, for instance, is so bad that if I find a legendary spear, I'm not going to take that over like a blue sledgehammer, you know? Now there's some hesitation there. You still might take the blue sledgehammer depending on your build, but now there's actually like a reason to take it. Whereas before, I would pretty much never take the legendary spear under any circumstances. Now I might. So I think that's a really positive change. I don't even know if it's an intended change, but it's something I've noticed in the most recent patch. And one other thing that I've noticed is that I don't believe there's been any kind of change to the 1-speed weapons. And I don't believe that there's been any kind of change to any of these weapons in terms of their heavy attacks. Like, at least as far as I could tell in my testing, the heavy attacks from the melee, the 3-speed melee weapons and the hunting knife at 5-speed are not any faster. So seems to only affect light attacks. So now that you know that, let's jump into it. First thing is the chainsaw. The chainsaw actually got buffed in this patch. It is the lone melee weapon that got a specific buff. It got its dismemberment damage raised, which is a good thing. So now I believe it is the highest dismemberment damage weapon in the game. Before, it was tied with the sword and the fire axe. Now it is slightly higher than both of those. So for me, that puts it squarely in S tier. It also, the other thing about these weapons that you have to really consider is that animations kind of matter. Like your swing animations kind of matter. Some of these have really good swing animations. Some of them don't. I really like, for instance, the fire axe. Its first heavy animation is like an overhead swing. That's a really, really good attack against like Necromancer because of their shields. It'll usually go over the top of their shields and one-shot them, whereas without that and a different weapon, their shields could soak up that first hit. So like animations matter in this game. That's something that I try to consider a little bit when choosing where these weapons go. So the chainsaw I got in S tier. I probably should have started with D tier and worked my way up, but we'll do that now. But we'll just say chainsaws at S tier right now. I really like the dismemberment. I love the even though it's a 1-speed, it feels like faster than other 1-speed weapons on Ash. Using it with AOD Ash, it feels like it just shreds through people with light attacks. So there's something about the chainsaw that just feels really, really good. And with its extra dismemberment, I definitely think that it's an S tier. In D tier, I have the hunting knife. This is the only weapon I have in D tier. Now, hear me out before you freak out about this. The hunting knife is actually really, really good, and it is the best dismemberment weapon in the game. It's even better than the chainsaw. However, I put it in D tier because of how much of a detriment it is to your own team. Now, with the speed buff to where you swing the hunting knife even faster with light attacks, now you could just completely lock down teammates if you get possessed. So now you're going to be, if you're like playing a warrior and you pick this thing up, you're going to be the demon's #1 priority for possession, and you are going to completely lock down a teammate and just like insta down them with no chance for them to escape. So this is like kind of a trap weapon. It's very, very good, but because of how easy it is to destroy your team, I never pick this up. The only time I ever pick up a hunting knife on anybody in the entire game is with Support Ash, now that he's been changed. Because now that he's been changed, I got a legendary hunting knife on Support Ash once, and it was crazy because, you know, I'm healing as much as like a 1-speed weapon on each swing, except I'm swinging much faster because it's a 5-speed, and that was really crazy. So like, Support Ash is a character now where if he finds like a legendary hunting knife, he's going to heal for more healing per second than he did before this change. So it's a really good weapon on him. But outside of that, I never picked this thing up. So that's why I put it in D tier, is because of the negative impact it can have on your team. After that, we got the C tier stuff. I still have the spear in C tier. This weapon got hit by the increased attack speed. A lot of this is just using it and feeling it in game, even apart from like actually looking at the stats. Because like I said, one thing that can make a big difference is the actual animations when you're swinging with it. I don't love the spear. As you can see, it doesn't do very good dismemberment damage. It's only a 20 on dismemberment. So like, it's purely for keeping things at bay and dealing damage. This is, and you're not really caring about dismemberment or balance bar with this thing at all. Again, the only time you would probably ever pick up the spear is on Support Ash, because it's got a really nice wide swing. On heavy, I think it's his 1, 3, and 4 swings and his 4-hit combo that are really wide sweeping attacks. And so that's really, really good. On Support Ash, specifically on the like dagger and pages, because you're going to have a lot of units surrounding you and you could get multiple hits pretty easily in one swing. And it's a 3-speed, so even though it's like a long, wide sweeping attack weapon, it's faster than, say, a Sledgehammer, which also has wide sweeping attacks, or the sword, because those are just 1 speed. So that's the only time I would ever really take the spear. The pickaxe, man, I don't know what it is about the pickaxe. The pickaxe feels really bad. And the pickaxe is an interesting one because I've used the pickaxe before, and it's like not terrible when it's super high rarity, but if I ever pick this thing up like lower rarity, it just feels like junk. Whereas like some of these other ones, you know, they feel just fine. So I don't know what it is about this. Maybe it's, you know what, I'm going to put this B tier. I don't think it's on the same tier as C tier. I think it's probably B tier. It's okay. Yeah, I'll put it on B tier. Because I don't feel that it's as bad as the Machete. Something about the Machete just feels terrible. I don't know if it's the swing animation, especially with the new patch where I've tried to make swing animations work, or the 3-speed weapons work. It just isn't doing anything for me. It feels like crap. Like, I can't get the Machete to work, man. It's just not, even when I'm spec'd into one-handed sharps on a warrior, the Machete is just junk. I don't know what it is about it, but I cannot get the Machete to be a good weapon. The same goes for the meat hammer. In theory, the meat hammer should be really good because it should be super fast, and it does balance bar damage. And right now, I think balance bar damage is just flat out better than dismemberment at the moment, especially after the most recent patch. Balance bar is king once again because basic units have been nerfed significantly in the early game, and they've been buffed significantly in the late game. So now, so no matter how you slice it, you need more balance bar damage. And in general, it just seems to be more effective and more consistent than dismemberment does. And so on paper, you'd think the meat hammer would be really good at stunning people, but it's not most of the time. Unless you find like a legendary of this, I wouldn't pick it up. It's not very good, at least in my testing using it. I don't know, man. The pickaxe is kind of between B and C tier. You could put it in either tier, really. With the new patch, I'll put them both up here. The two weapons that I felt got better with this patch in particular are the hand axe and the meat cleaver. The hand axe especially seems to swing a lot faster than it did before. The hand axe feels like it got buffed significantly. The meat cleaver is just, this thing just shreds through people, man. I don't know what it is, But like, I picked this up on a game where I was spec'd into one-handed sharps, and I mean, the demon player could not spawn AI units. I was running around with this thing, and I was just slicing things up in 1 to 2 hits, and they could not get going the whole match. These two weapons in particular feel like they're way faster than maybe even they should be. Oh man, I'm gonna put I just don't feel like the pickaxe is on, like, statistically, you look at the stats, it's on the same tier as these two, but it just doesn't feel like it, dude. I don't know what it is, but I've used all these extensively, and it just doesn't feel like the pickaxe has been buffed in the same way that the hand axe and the meat cleaver have. The hand axe and the meat cleaver feel much better. The pickaxe feels roughly the same. But these two especially feel much better after light attacks got buffed, and you typically want to be light attacking with small 3-speed weapons like this anyway. After that, I think I'd probably put the bat in the same tier. If there was like a B+ tier, the bat would probably be in it. This is a really good weapon that I would probably prioritize over these two, unless it was like a big rarity discrepancy. The bat is really good at stunning people. For some reason, I really like the swing animations with the bat too. It seems to really get through and hit enemies pretty well. It does have a 5.0 range, as you can see, so you are able to really lock on to characters. Like, if you're playing a warrior and a possessed unit runs away from you and is trying to attack one of your teammates, this does a really good job of just light attack, locks onto them, and you just like get vacuumed into them. And it has great like swing animations for that, so I'm a big fan of the bat and its swing animations. In A tier, I've got the shovel. The shovel's really good. It's got good damage. It's got good balance bar, and then it's also got solid dismemberment for a blunt weapon, which is really nice. It's just a solid weapon. I can't really put it on S tier. I don't think it's quite up there. I think it's in the same tier as like the mace. The mace is an interesting one. I want to talk about the mace. The mace is interesting because I've heard reports that the mace is bugged and that it does more balance bar than it's supposed to. I don't think that's true. I think it's probably just a placebo because basic units in general have been super nerfed. But it's possible. It does seem like it does do a lot of balance bar damage, but I feel like everything does a lot of balance bar damage now because of the way basic units in the early game have been nerfed with their balance bar. So this could be S tier. I went back and forth before I started this video on whether or not the mace is at S tier or A tier. It feels sometimes like it's S tier. Other time, I don't know, man. I feel like I need to play 20 more hours with the mace before I can really decide where this thing belongs. It could be S tier if it's bugged like people say it is. If it's not, I'd put it in A tier. In my testing, God, some games it does feel like it's busted. Some games it doesn't. It probably also depends on like, what demon I'm playing against and what perks they're using, what level they are, all that stuff. So I'm not quite sure where to put the mace. For now, I would put it in A tier, though. I'm going to put the sword in A tier. I really like the sword, though, too. Sword has crazy dismemberment, and this is another one that's got great like attack animations. I like how wide sweeping swings it does on lights, especially. That's really helpful for the dagger and pages step. Like, it has some of the best light attack animations for a 1-speed weapon. So I'm a big fan of the sword. It's got decent balance bar too for a sharp weapon. Geez, man, you know what? I'm probably gonna put the mace in S tier. Let me tell you why. Because originally I had the axe. I had the axe in S tier. Now I think the axe is A tier, just because I am falling out of love with dismemberment damage. The chainsaw is just the axe, but with like a little bit shorter range and a little bit higher dismemberment damage. A little bit higher dismemberment damage, I think, puts it ahead of the axe, so that's why I think it's an S tier. I don't think range really matters as much, and maybe I'm insane. I'll probably have to do side-to-side testing to do this. I did it with a few weapons, but I didn't do it with the chainsaw yet. But it does feel like the chainsaw swings faster than the axe does, even though they're both 1 speeds, but I'd need to test that. So just based on my gut, I'm saying that I think the chainsaw is slightly better than the hand axe. And like I said, balance bar reigns supreme right now. It's just flat out better than dismemberment at the moment. Because of that, I think the Sledgehammer is also an S tier. So these are the two big balance bar weapons right up here, the Mace and the Sledgehammer. The shovel's good too. The shovel, I still would put it just a tier below because it's really just kind of like a worse in every way version of the Sledgehammer. So like, you know, that's my logic here, is I think the shovel is just a strictly worse version of the Sledgehammer, so I put it a tier below. I think now the fire axe is a strictly worse version of the chainsaw, so I put it a tier below. There is an argument to be made for the fact that the chainsaw can only be used by Ash, whereas the fire axe can be used by anybody. So maybe you could put that in S tier, use that logic to say, well, the fire axe is ahead of the chainsaw because it can be used by more people. I'm just talking about the strength of the weapon. Yes, maybe for overall value to the team, the fire axe is better because it can be used by everybody. But if we're just comparing the strength of the weapons, I think the chainsaw is just ever so slightly better than the fire axe, and that's why it's 1 tier ahead. The Mace is a weapon that it's so unique because it's a one-hander, so it benefits from that. So if you're somebody who goes through your skill tree to spec into like one-handed damage, that perk pops up before the two-handed damage does, so that's going to save you a perk point. So even if you're somebody who really wants to spec into like one-handed blunts, which was not a thing before this, apart from the meat hammer, now you can do that, and you've got a really nice high damage weapon to do that with. So that's why I'm putting Mace in S tier, because it just feels like it just cranks out crazy amounts of balance bar damage. And like I said, I was kind of going back and forth between it being A and S tier. But I'll go ahead and put it in S tier, all right? So this is my weapon tier list after the Castle Kandar update. Let me know what you think. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is going to vary depending on your character. Depending on your character, you're going to have different priorities for your weapons, so also keep that in mind. This is just kind of a general thing. If it's like, oh, you know, I'm playing leader, and my warrior has already found a weapon, a legendary of some kind, so now I get first pick of whatever we find next, and you found all these common weapons. This is kind of what you're prioritizing right here, in my opinion. Like, you're looking for this kind of stuff. So that's how I'm kind of doing this list, because it might change. Like if you're like I said earlier, if you're playing support Ash, you're probably going to prioritize the hunting knife or the spear, depending on the rarity. I don't want to get into a whole support Ash thing. He can also go after 1-speed weapons as well now because of how his healing is a percentage. But that's not that kind of video. That's not what we're talking about here. So anyway, that's the video. Let me know what you think down in the comments about this melee weapon tier list, and let me know what you think should be in S tier, if any of these should be bumped up or bumped down. Let me know in the comments as always, and if you made it this far in the video, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.